Thank you. Please welcome contestant number 2, Marin Stamer.
As the previous Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Kofi Annan once stated, "Gender equality is more than a goal in itself. In its solution contains the preconditions towards meeting the challenges of reducing poverty, promoting sustainable development, and building good governance." Heeding the wise words of Mr. Kofi Annan, I am here to speak with you all tonight to talk about why we should eradicate gender inequality from our society as a whole, and the steps to do it. First, we must begin to eradicate gender inequality by identifying the sexism and calling it out when we see it in our daily lives. Sexism is kind of a funky, fluid thing. Not all of us are sure about what it is or if we've experienced it in our lives. So let me give you a few examples. In a 2012 study done by the Pentagon, out of all military organizations and events, 25% of people involved experienced or witnessed sexual assault or violence. However, only 3,374 cases were reported officially. Another example of sexism is when we give our young boys and girls, different toys to play with, or we assign different colors to them. The list continues. However, what can we do to call it out when we see it? Calling it out can be as simple as stating to a friend, "Hey, did you realize how sexist that was? Did you realize that you were biased towards this?" It can even be noticing something that you do in your daily life or habit, and making a change or a note to change later on. Secondly, we must move on to the education of people. The education of both men and women is crucial towards the eradication of gender inequality in our society. As political analysts at Illinois State University found in a study, the social, political, and economic benefits were extremely parallel in distribution when compared to the education of the society they were found. They took third world countries such as Pakistan and India and compared them with their education rates to those of the United States and Britain. Well, as expected, those with more education, such as Britain and the United States, had almost the exact same economic growth and distribution when compared to those of third world countries. So, the education of both men and women is crucial, again, to changing in the way we think about gender inequality and promoting a better government and society we live in. Another reason we should continue to educate and encourage those in our society was proven to me when I looked online and I researched and saw Prague University in a study of 2016 in which they did. In that 2016 study, the Prague University researchers found that they found that men and women, although experiencing a wage gap, the wage gap was not caused because of purposeful sexism. However, was caused because of the choices that women tended to make in choosing careers, whereas compared to the choices that men made. For example, women were more likely to go into careers such as nursing and secretary offices, whereas men were more likely to go into STEM-based careers such as aerospace engineering or business and marketing, which typically make better salaries. So what can organizations such as the AAUW in our government do to aid in supporting women and girls to make better choices? Well, primarily, we can continue to do events and support events like this. We can involve more women, men, and children in the education of sexism and why it needs to be stopped. We can continue to support the organizations such as the AAUW and movements in our government and in our country, such as the feminist movement, to a certain extent, to aid in the awareness and spreading the awareness of why sexism is an issue that needs to be solved. We can make it a priority in our daily lives to change in ourselves and in our habits. But other than education and encouragement of women, how can we stop sexual sexism and gender inequality in our daily lives? This is where we look to our past. As previous leaders such as Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, Cesar Chavez, and many more all have done, we must protest peacefully. We must continue to fight strongly. We must maintain the strength and priority we put into this eradication of gender inequality. We must maintain the high road. And never must we ever give up, because to give up is to admit that the future daughters and men of this generation will not experience a gender equal world. I leave you all today with a challenge. Not to instantly start marching down the streets with signs, yelling about how sexism is wrong. But if you do, I'm not going to be the one stopping you. However, to change one thing that you do in your life that contributes towards gender inequality and sexism. Because if each of us can change one thought, simply one thought, we are all headed towards a better future and a better world. Thank you.